Today I'm heading to Sunset Hill, a small greenbelt property less than an acre that falls within the city of Gloucester's Pole Hill Conservation Area. I am driving there before dawn in the hope of seeing the sunrise. The winter solstice is just a few days away, but clouds are predicted. My goal is to catch the sunrise before the clouds move in. Some people believe the first inhabitants of Turtle Island, as the indigenous people call this continent, moved rocks here to align with the sunrise at the winter solstice. I want to see for myself. Sunset Hill sits on a granite outcropping 105 feet above two rivers, the Annisquam River to the west and the Mill River to the east. It sits on a peninsula that was home to the Pawtucket people who are indigenous to Essex County. Before the Greenbelt, before Europeans started making it property, back when land was still viewed as something sacred, when people belonged to the land rather than land belonging to people. I head for the rock that is believed to be the center of a solar observatory. Good morning. I might be able to see it like right through there. I'm not sure. As I watch the sun on the horizon and reflect on the meaning of the rocks right here in front of me, I think of the words of Haudenosaunee Faithkeeper, Oren Lyons.
We have relationships with all the elements and forces of life, including the sun, we call our elder brother. The moon, we call our grandmother. The winds, we call our grandfathers. The four directions. And nature is the earth itself, and we call the earth Mother. Iti Noha, our mother. We have been told and understand that we're relatives. And where our white brother will talk about water and trees and animals and fish as resources, we talk about them as relatives. And that's a whole different perspective.
What would it be like to come here with an entirely different perspective? What would it be like to stand here knowing the rising sun as elder brother, knowing the earth as mother? I arrived here this morning with the intention of observing the alignment of rocks with the sun. And yet my experience here is already much more than I had expected. When I return a few days later, the snow already has melted, a reminder of our changing climate. I head for the rock that marks the center of this place. This rock has been called the gnomon, the center of a sundial. This gnomon does not mark the hours of a day, but rather the seasons of a year. I first learned of the gnomon from Gloucester's amateur historian of all things Native American, Mary Ellen LeBianca.
Ceremonial stone landscapes using glacial erratics were erected, moved, or modified by Native people. The Algonquians of New England possessed the same knowledge and skills as the Native people who built those big stone temples in Mexico and Central America.
As one whose people have colonized this land, do I even have a place here? My people, colonists and settlers, have mistaken this place for property, when in fact these rocks, these trees, this land defy ownership. We are invited to kinship, not ownership. Potawatomi botanist and author Robin Wall Kimmerer asks us to shift our worldview from one of ownership or even stewardship of natural resources to one of kinship with the natural world. Kimmerer asserts that the land, the rocks, the earth are not natural resources but natural beings. In Kimmerer's Potawatomi language, calling a natural being an object instead of a person is more than disrespectful. It is impossible.
In Potawatomi, the cases that we have are animate and inanimate, and it is impossible in our language to speak of other living beings as it. We think of water as alive, as rocks as alive, alive in different ways, but certainly not inanimate. Generally, the inanimate grammar is reserved for those things which humans have created.
I begin to appreciate how far off I have wandered. From my Western perspective, the alignment and the splitting of these rocks would make them come alive. From an indigenous perspective, human manipulation by aligning the rocks with the sun does not animate them. Instead, animacy is found in the dynamic relationships these rocks have with the natural world. Humans cannot manipulate such relationships into being. We can only participate in them. From an indigenous perspective, rocks are recognized as persons from the gifts they offer. We in turn must recognize our responsibility to give back. Robin Wall Kimmerer describes her experience of standing within a circle of great rocks left in the Adirondacks as the glaciers receded northward. The rocks are full of intention, a deep presence attracting life. This is a place of power, vibrating with energy exchange at a very long wavelength. And it's a little bit of a challenge here. A little bit of a challenge to come up this wall. We're not taking the main path. Looking closely at the gnomon, I can see that the central rock is supported by a much smaller stone. The gnomon points directly skyward and appears to be balanced by this stone. Until now, I have barely noticed the lichens covering almost every inch of the gnomon. Naturalist Joe Walewski writes, "Lichens are perhaps the most obvious, overlooked component of our landscape. They are so ubiquitous, yet so small. It's no surprise that many people inadvertently overlook them." The line of sight between the central rock, the gnomon, and the summer sunrise rock is clearly visible. Unlike the winter sunrise rock, which sits up high on the horizon, the summer sunrise rock sits down low in the basin. It has an arresting glow. Without the luminous glow, I would not have noticed that half of the summer sunrise rock is lichen-free. Lichens prefer north-facing surfaces where it is cooler and wetter. The summer sunrise rock glows on its south side. No other rock in this place has such a vertical, flat surface facing southward. Through my macro lens, I see its true colors. This warmer, drier side is lichen-free. I begin to see this rock not as a single block of stone, but as a complete ecosystem. About 400 million years ago, fungi first discovered agriculture. They learned to care for plants. Fungi extracted nitrogen and water from the air. They unearthed minerals from the rocks. The fungi offered these gifts to microscopic algae and cyanobacteria. These tiny plants reciprocated by photosynthesizing sugar for the fungi. Intertwined in this reciprocal relationship, fungi and microscopic plants became lichens together. They have such gratitude for each other's gifts that they have been living together ever since. These rocks are animated not only by their ancient connection to lichens, but also by their abiding kinship with the mosses. Like lichen, mosses transform rocks into soil. Robin Wall Kimmerer explains, "The rocks are beyond slow, beyond strong, and yet yield to a soft green breath as powerful as a glacier. The mosses wearing away their surfaces, grain by grain, bringing them slowly back to sand. In this way, rocks offer the earth an ancient gift, the gift of soil. For this gift, we owe our deepest gratitude." Kimmerer explains that gratitude is powerful medicine for the earth and the soil that we have so long neglected.
Now, gratitude may seem like weak tea, given the desperate challenges that lie before us, but it is powerful medicine, more than a simple thank you. Gratitude pulls us into relationship with other entities, reminding us that our very existence relies on the gifts of others. Gratitude calls us to acknowledge the personhood of all beings, from maple trees to snapping turtles. And gratitude is humbling. It's an antidote to the arrogance of our time. It reminds us that we are just one member of the democracy of species. It reminds us that the earth does not belong to us.